Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Wednesday. That means we got JC, the corn dog, here in just a second. Second part of the day's show, we're going to have Allan Taylor on. He covers the Florida Gators from The Athletic, also a college football analyst for The Athletic. So we'll just get his thoughts on the landscape of college football. Everybody's been practicing 3 or 4 days now. Before you know it, I think the first game of the year, if I'm not mistaken, is Illinois and Nebraska. But let's go to the Titan MR hotline. We're going to be joined from the hills of Pennsylvania.
Yes.
JC's buried somewhere up there. Good morning, JC. How are you?
Yep. Hey, good morning, everybody. I did some well, first of all, it's beautiful up here in Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania. I went to that place, Punxsutawney, yesterday, where the gopher or the groundhog comes out of the hole and he tells you how long winter's going to last. That was truly a scintillating moment. And we had lunch there. I had meatloaf, mashed potatoes on bread, and some broccoli, cream and broccoli soup yesterday.
Very healthy lunch you had.
Right. And you got to be hardy up here in the mountains. And then today, going down to Mount Nittany. I won't be wearing this hat, but I will be going down to Mount Nittany and pick up some Penn State gear, see how they do in the Big Ten East. They are projected to be right behind Ohio State this year. They were 4-5 last year. They should be better. I was reading up on some teams yesterday. The coaches poll is out. QB, I see where the preseason top 25 has Florida at 11. That's a lot higher than some of these magazines. So obviously the coaches think that the Florida Gators are going to be vastly improved. I think when you look at their defense, it's got to be better. It's got to be better. The running back core is going to be deep, and I think with just a couple of offensive linemen leaving, they'll still have plenty of depth, I think, up front. I'm sure Allen's going to dig deeper into Florida, as he should. I like reading him. I've read him on The Athletic. There's some really good writers on that service. I enjoy it, and I got a pretty good subscription deal on it for my first year, and I'm definitely going to resubscribe. So pass along to Allen that he's got a loyal subscriber here on Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning, and I keep up the good work because he's got a lot of good content, and he'll really get you right. When I looked at that top 25 preseason poll, nothing really surprised me. But then I looked at some of these teams, and I saw Notre Dame at number 7. And I probably talked too much about Notre Dame on here. I know it. I admit that. I looked at their schedule yesterday, QB. They play either 4 or 5 teams coming off bye weeks on their schedule, back-to-back in some cases. It is not going to be easy for Notre Dame because they have to replace their quarterback. But I don't know. That's a name that just keeps popping up for some reason, and they come in at number 7, right behind Texas A&M and Georgia in the preseason top 25 poll that the coaches have put out. I think North Carolina and Iowa State are 2 teams that are definitely on the rise. You got to keep your eye on them. Watch out for those 2, and then we'll see how it all plays out from there after that.
Yeah, the first game of the year, I believe, is Nebraska at Illinois on Saturday, August 28th at 1 o'clock Eastern time. I bring up Nebraska because, JC, I was looking at Twitter last night before I went to bed just to see. There ain't a whole lot going on in the world, but in the world of sports, I should say. So Nebraska is coming out with an alternative uniform. Now, you're into mascots. Their little mascot that runs around with his hat on backwards and overalls. His name is called Little Red.
Little Red.
Well, these jokers have a football jersey
with overalls.
And they're wearing that at some point this year. I don't know, but
it's so horrible.
It is so bad.
It's so horrible. If they actually run out on that field, they basically said we lose. They have accepted loss. They will accept defeat the minute they walk out on that field in those ridiculous outfits. And it brought up a couple of other I can't think off the top of my head, but I did see that QB. It's got the 2 red stripes and the overall on the jersey. It's so bad. I don't know who comes up with these ideas and says, "Yeah,
well, they want to look like their mascot, Little Red." So if we don't have a picture to show, but just Google it, people. I cannot believe they're going to wear these football uniforms. Well, it may be the worst alternative uniform I've ever seen.
I agree. I just laughed when I saw that. It's like, who's serious about this? Are they serious? Do they want to win football game? You know, Nebraska for attendance last year was number 1 in capacity ratio or something like that. They had fans every seat of their stadium for a 4-6 or 4-5 or 3-5 team last year was full. They are so passionate about football up there in Nebraska, but they've been so bad for so long. I mean, really decades now. And Scott Frost, he better not come out with an 0-3 or 0-4 start. And I know he's one of their former guys, but he's got to be a little better if they're going to be a factor in the Big Ten West. And I don't see them as one. I think Iowa looks pretty good in the West. Wisconsin is being thought of as the favorite in the Big Ten West this year.
Yeah, we got a couple of texts on the tight end. We're texting from Darryl. He says, "Good morning, guys. Coach Brewster coming out and saying that Kamari Gamble is going to be the best tight end in the SEC. Sounds like he's going to be the go-to guy like Kyle Pitts was. What are your thoughts?" P.S. Shane, I like your Mahi Mahi shirt. Actually, it's not, Darryl. This is a shirt that I had designed for a good friend of mine who was in a fishing tournament. And on the back, it's actually a fish with an old school leather helmet, and it's called the Washed Up Fishing Team. It was their shirts for a fishing tournament. So it's a whole bunch of old former football players. So anyway, about Kamari Gamble, I mean, do I think he's going to be the best tight end in the SEC? No, I don't. The best tight end in the SEC is in College Station. He's the best tight end. I would say the second best tight end right now, before they play any games, would be the Billingsley kid from Alabama. However, I don't really consider him a tight end. He's kind of a hybrid guy. He can line up at wide receiver. So we'll see. I mean, they have some talent at the tight end position, but I mean,
well, I mean, look,
you'll never see anybody like
those are some very large shoes to fill. Look, I think they'll get him the ball, but this is going to be an offense that runs it a lot with the quarterback from the quarterback position. And like I said, you've got Pierce, you've got it's not in front of me, but you've got 5 running backs in that backfield. They're all going to see a lot of time. Davis, Malik Davis. A lot of time. These running backs are going to be a big part of this offense. I just really see that happening, and I think the transfer from Clemson will be also a factor.
Gene says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. JC with the old Hugh Green pit hat. Yeah, treat yourself to the creamery in Happy Valley. Has Gene ever been to Happy Valley?
I don't know if Gene has, but I'm going to go get some Penn State white S hat instead of the lion logo. I'm going to get the white. They have a blue hat with a white S, kind of taking off what Michigan State has. Like a lunatic on Monday, I forgot to mention Dan Marino, one of the great Pitt Panthers. I mentioned the other guys, and correctly, some of the fellas on Facebook Live questioned my sanity by forgetting Dan Marino. And, he's another great Pitt Panther. Pittsburgh is a team to watch out for in the ACC with that quarterback. 4 home games. They play Clemson. They play NC State. They play Virginia Tech. They play a lot of home games this year. North Carolina's at home. That's another team to really keep your eye on with that quarterback that they have. Could be a real interesting year in the ACC. And I know that's kind of funny to say because we are so centered on the SEC and rightfully so. But the ACC would be a conference I think you should keep your eye on. Clemson's schedule is so easy, though. My God, I look at it.
Clemson has one.
So easy.
They have one ranked team on their schedule, and that's the opener, Georgia.
And I think they have 3 or 4 road games against really weak looking teams. They have got an easy schedule. My goodness, Florida State. So I did figure out that Clemson is in the Atlantic Division and North Carolina is in the Coastal Division. I actually figured that out and read it. So North Carolina is favored to win that Coastal Division. And, of course, Clemson is favored to win the Atlantic. But I think North Carolina, with Mac Brown, that quarterback they have, some returning players, will be a team to keep your eye on. They are ranked in the top 10 in the coaches poll that just came out. Keep your eye out for North Carolina. And again, I think with the Gators, and Allen, I'm sure we'll touch on this, but the running game is going to be big, and the depth on the offensive line will be better. And if Emory doesn't turn the ball over, maybe Florida can keep the defense off the field. And I think they will absolutely have to be better on defense.
Turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot this August. Mention promo code Shane and 13% off your vehicle wrap. Speaking with JC on the Titan More Hotline, we'll be joined by Allan Taylor from The Athletic, talking Gators and college football in the second portion of the show. I want to switch gears real quick, JC. I know you really were thinking about going to the Pittsburgh Philly preseason game tomorrow night, but you're going to pass, I think. But speaking of the NFL, Brian Daboll, who I think spent time in Alabama, correct?
Yes, Brian Daboll.
Okay.
Yep.
He's the offensive coordinator with the Buffalo Bills. I thought this was awesome. He did this in a team meeting, on an offensive meeting with all offensive coaches and the players. So I'm going to read what happened. Follow me here. He said, an example of how the coaches are delivering a message. Offensive coordinator Brian Daboll, in a meeting early in camp, asked every offensive player and coach to stand up in the room. He said, if you're a coach and you've ever been fired, sit down. Every coach in the room sat down. He said, okay, if you're a player and you've ever been cut or traded, sit down. He said a large group of the players sat down. Then he says, if you weren't picked in the first round, sit down. And suddenly the only person left standing in the room was quarterback Josh Allen. And then Daboll said, Josh, how many scholarship offers did you get out of high school? Do you know the answer to this?
I'd say not many.
None. He got 0 scholarship. He went JUCO. Yeah. And then basically the moral to the story was, all right, everyone, let's all remember where we came from. So that's pretty cool.
It's cool, and it also shows that you don't have to be a 5-star to get one of the biggest contracts that NFL has ever shown. And he just did. And he played at a very small school, very obscure place, not much attention, not much fanfare, not much press. But, boy, the NFL knew where Laramie, Wyoming was. They knew where
Wyoming. The NFL will find you, trust me.
Yeah, well, listen, they found this guy, and look what he's got now. He's got one of the biggest contracts ever to be offered, guaranteed money especially in that league. And, it does help QB that he's 6'5", 6'6", 240 because it gives him, the ability to endure the NFL by being large. But he's got a rifle for an arm. He's got some wide receivers. Obviously, Stephon Diggs is his primary guy. And the Buffalo Bills will be probably the favorite, I would guess, to win the AFC East and to be a real threat to Kansas City in the AFC period. So, good for him and good for Brian Daboll knew all this when he asked all these questions, but he made a point. And again, Josh is going to have a big year in Buffalo. I mean, this is their hope. This is their next Jim Kelly. If they're a Buffalo Bills fan, this is the guy who's going to get them there.
What's interesting, I guarantee you, if every coach did that in their offense or defensive meetings, there won't be a whole lot of people standing.
No,
I don't think people realize what the NFL is made up of. Really, the roster is made up of a bunch of guys that have been cut a lot of times and not a whole lot of first rounders. So that was pretty cool. Speaking of this, JC, I want to ask you, the 3 quarterbacks taken in Josh Allen's draft class, himself, Lamar Jackson, and Baker Mayfield.
Right. Baker, yeah.
Out of those 3 teams, the Browns, the Bills,
the Ravens,
and the Ravens, who goes the farthest this year?
Well, I got to say it's going to be Buffalo. It's going to be the it's going to be Buffalo. Their division is so much easier. That North division in the AFC with Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Baltimore, and then you throw in a upstart Cincinnati team, is going to be a real battle. I think those teams are going to beat each other up. They're very competitive teams, and they're very good. I think Buffalo's going to cakewalk through the East. I don't think New England is the same team. I don't think the Jets are a threat yet. And certainly I think the Dolphins could give Buffalo some problems, but we don't know about the quarterback. So, at this point on August, whatever it is, 10th, 11th, 12th, 11th, at this point,
big day here in Gainesville.
Yeah. Oh, wait, is it raining yet? But on August 11th, I got to say Buffalo's going to cruise in that division until we see what Tua is able to do in Miami, because I don't think Zach's going to have a really great year at New York. I think that's a team that's going to lose a bunch of games, and I think New England has got kind of the same problem, but I do think they're built for the future. So I don't know what Cam's going to do in New England, or how much Mac Jones is going to play in New England, but to me, it's Buffalo pretty easily of those three, only because Cleveland and Baltimore and Pittsburgh are pretty much the same team, QB. They're the same team, and they will physically beat each other up, and they will be good. I wouldn't be surprised to see two teams make the playoffs out of the AFC North. I would say that, but I think Buffalo will have the better record.
Rick says he asked a question to you, JC. When are you going to visit Wyoming?
Well, that's coming up next summer. Yes, we'll be in Jackson Hole next summer. That's a good question. Thank you, Rick. We'll be in South Dakota. We will look at the wonderful Mount Rushmore and drive across the northern plains of Wyoming until we get to our spot in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where we will shack up there with some friends at the resort in Jackson Hole. That is next summer, but thank you for the question. Laramie is in the southern part of the state. We'll be going through the top part of the state, so I don't know if I'll get down to UW, but if I can get to the University of Wyoming, by God, I'll try.
Yeah, Jackson Hole's is awesome. I hadn't been there in several years, but I've been there.
Yeah. Did you go skiing, QB? Is that
no? I went in the summertime, played a lot of golf, and hung out with big moose sitting in the back, drinking out of a creek.
I had a deer. Hey, I had a deer 3 feet away from me last night, sucking on an apple and eating corn that was bought at Walmart. That was another thing we did. We bought a bag of corn. We took it to the backyard. We sprayed it around in the backyard, threw a couple apples on some rocks, and we had 4 deer literally 3 feet away from me eating. And I just looked at it. I said, look at that. Now, why does everybody get excited looking at these things? And I can't really figure that out, but you Mississippi guys really lose it when you see a deer or a turkey. So I thought, well, gee whiz, this is where Shane and all his buddies and all my friends in Mississippi would really love being me right now, because I'm 3 feet away from the things they value more than anything in this world. And that's a deer and a turkey. And that is where I am right now. Although I didn't see any turkeys, I saw 4 deer, mama deer, papa deer, and 2 baby deers just killing some corn that was bought at Walmart here in Du Bois.
Okay. Rick says, Jason, before you go on your Wyoming vacation, make sure you speak to him, because he's been out there quite a few.
No problem. Well, we got some time. We got some time before next summer, but thank you for the heads up.
Yeah. If you've got joint pain in your knees, shoulders, hip, or back that won't go away, you need to check out QC Kinetics for long-lasting relief. No surgery, drugs, or downtime. Schedule your free consultation at QC Kinetics. 352-400-4550. Call them today. That's QC Kinetics. 352-400-4550. What?
I mean, why do you guys get so excited about turkeys and deers? I mean, what's the big damn deal? I looked at this deer last night, and then after about 5 minutes, that was it. I didn't need to look at it anymore. And if I moved, they would all scatter. So everybody made me sit still so we could watch this stupid deer eat a corn on the ground. What gets you so excited up there in Mississippi about these deers?
They're just pretty.
Or North Florida.
They're pretty creatures, man.
No, they are. And
they
these ones up here. But these ones up here have no fear whatsoever.
They're light on their feet, JC. They're light on their feet.
They truly are. You think Florida's got any deer on the offense this year?
They may have a few. We'll see.
They got some to replace. We know that. But I think Copeland could be a big story this year. Yeah,
time will tell. But we'll talk about Allan Taylor from The Athletic here momentarily. But in the meantime, okay, JC, real quick.
Sure.
We're training camp. I mean, like I said, preseason games start tomorrow.
Yep.
I wanted to get your thoughts. Do you think the Bucs repeat?
No, I don't think. I think it's too hard to repeat because there could be some injuries that come into play. And remember, Tampa had one of those typical, coming from nowhere type of situations where they were seeded fifth. They won 3 very difficult road games to get to the Super Bowl, and they looked great winning all 3 of them. They dominated all 3 games: Washington, New Orleans, Green Bay. Then they have the home game in the Super Bowl with about 25,000 fans, and it just all fell into place. And so the odds are against them for that to happen. But I think if anybody would, this is a real good bet, if you want to call it that, because everybody's playing. Everybody on that roster is back this year. But other teams are going to be better too, and this could be a magical year for another team. So many things have to go right, right? I mean, you know that, QB. You've gone through 14 some odd seasons. So much has to fall into place at just the right time, and then injuries are such a big part of it all. And now with 17 games, QB, 17 games, even though it's just 1 extra game, I'm still thinking that it's just going to be harder this year. We don't have the COVID issues. Well, I guess we do have the COVID issues still. So, I mean, we certainly have it, but there will be fans in the stadium, I guess is where I'm going there. And I do think that some obscure team, because we didn't think Tampa was going to win it last year, and we don't know who could win it this year, but some obscure team could really get hot at the right time. And then you always have Kansas City, you got Buffalo, you got Green Bay. These teams have really good quarterbacks. So I tend to go with the team that gets hot at the end of the year. We don't know who that would be, but I would answer your question with a no.
Well, we'll see. I mean, first time ever a team in the NFL has all 22 starters back. I think their division got a lot easier. If you remember, Drew Brees is gone.
Yes, no doubt.
Still not sold on. You got, what is it? Sam Darnold's now going to be the quarterback of the Panthers.
Sam Darnold. You got
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan.
So one of your other 8,000 teams in the National Football League, the Cowboys, are you concerned about Dak Prescott?
Yes. I mean, who wouldn't be after you just sold half the state and gave it to him, and then financially, and now he's got a strained throwing shoulder. I don't know if it's going to be that big a deal. I think QB, how injuries are handled better than I would. A strained throw shot, I don't know if that's really what it is or if it's something else. I don't know what they're saying.
Well, I think it's strange, quite honestly. I was fortunate. I never had any arm problems. I was taught and told if you throw with good throwing mechanics and all that, you won't have arm problems. And I believe it 100%. Right. But what's strange to me is, he comes back from the broken ankle, leg, whatever you want to call it. And then all of a sudden there's this shoulder issue. I don't know where it came about. You know what I mean?
I don't either. And I don't know why it would. I don't know what he's done. Maybe he slept on it wrong. I don't know. I will tell you this. With the contract he just signed and the fact that Dallas is basically going to hold Elliott out the entire training camp. He's not going to play. He's not going to do anything this entire camp. He doesn't need to. They're going to be overprotective of the guys that they think give them the best chance to win. And that includes, obviously, their biggest investment, who is the quarterback. If their offensive line is healthy, Dallas will score a lot of points. I still think they have a lot of capability on the offensive side of the ball. It's their defense that I think is their biggest issue with that team. So, that division, too, is no slouch. I think Washington has one of the most ferocious defensive-looking teams I've ever seen, with all those Alabama players and all those top picks and a quarterback that will get them in the end zone. Look out for Washington. And then, of course, Philadelphia is going to be physical and be a tough team, and the Giants should be better. So it could be an interesting division, I think. We'll get closer as we get to the season. We'll get closer and maybe dive into who we think is going to win those divisions.
Yeah, we got a couple of Facebook Lives brought to you by Metal Law. John, he must be either a Rams or a Cowboys fan because he's actually been watching their scrimmages. He says Stafford's been looking good. I expect Stafford to be good. Matt Stafford, in my opinion, is a top 5 NFL quarterback.
Oh, the Rams are going to have so much fun. It's going to be so much fun watching the Rams. And by the way, to our loyal listeners and viewers, I am a Rams season ticket holder. So if you'd like to go to a Rams game this year, by all means, get in touch with me and I'll get you those 2 tickets there on level 3. It's the most beautiful $5 billion facility ever built. And the Super Bowl is in LA. I got all kinds of opportunities for folks that want to go watch what I think will be a great team to watch. And the Rams could be one of the favorites to win the NFC this year.
Well, are they going to have fans in the stands this year?
So that's everything I'm reading online, and all our season ticket holder newsletters come in saying, get ready to come to the Rams house, our house. I don't know why I like the Rams. I'm not a big fan of Los Angeles as a place, but it's what I grew up loving. So I'll stay with the Rams.
Real quick, don't give me this long story, but why in the hell do you like the Rams?
Don't give me this long story. Well, they used to always lose to the Cowboys and Vikings in their helmet. When I saw their helmet, I fell in love with the way the horns spun around on their helmet. I loved Vince Ferragamo. And to me, they were my team, man. James Harris, Vince Ferragamo, Nolan Cromwell, Jack Youngblood, Jim Youngblood. Save my bones. Here comes Cody Jones, Larry Brooks. I mean, this team was cool, but they couldn't beat Dallas and Minnesota when it counted the most. But the one year they did get to the Super Bowl, and Pittsburgh beat them. So, but they have won a Super Bowl. They have won one. So,
all right. Well, they've
been of course, St. Louis. They go to St. Louis, and I then fell in love with the greatest show on turf, which it was, with Kurt Warner and all those great players. Who didn't love that track team? That was the most fun team to watch ever, maybe, in football, because of how great it was with Dick Vermeil, Kurt Warner coming off the grocery store, out of the grocery store, and winning a Super Bowl. It should have won 2, really, when you think about it. But he should have won 3. He could have easily won 3. The team in Arizona that he took to the Super Bowl probably should have won it, but Ben Roethlisberger and Mike Wallace got in the way. But Arizona was good enough to win that game, and everybody knows that.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about the NFC East when you were talking about the Redskins. I think the Redskins are going to win that division.
Their defense is as good as it gets, man. They have so much depth up there on that defensive side of the ball. Ron Rivera is the Super Bowl coach. He hasn't won it, but he's been there. And, that Carolina team that went to the Super Bowl, they talk about Cam Newton, but everybody forgets how ferocious their defense was. And his team gets after it on defense. They're very good. They're very good. They gave Jonathan Allen a huge contract. Montez Sweat, Damian Payne, or Daron Payne. They have a lot of players. Rashad Evans, a lot of good players on defense.
Yep, Chase Young. So with
Chase Young,
with Fitzgerald going over there. I mean, not Fitzgerald. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's a veteran guy.
Yeah, and that kid who finished the year last year, he looked kind of fun to watch. I don't know who it was, but he was better than what they had. I don't know. I think you're right. I mean, Washington's got to figure out how to score. If they score points, though, watch out.
They will with Fitzpatrick. He's the guy that gets the ball down the field. He's not.
He does.
He's a very accurate passer. Knows what's going on. So look out for the. I think I called them the Redskins, whatever they're called, the Washington football team.
Yeah, that's all they are. But with your Rams, I agree with you. We'll break down that NFL as we get closer to this season. There's 3 preseason games to endure first. They got to cut their rosters down. Then we'll get after the weekend after Labor Day. But, for me right now, QB, we're inside of 3 weeks before the season starts. It's getting close. I want to do some more research, get you all learned up on the other teams out there. And, of course, we'll talk Florida football for the majority.
Before we let you go, does Tim Tebow make the roster?
I don't, something's telling me he will for everything other than the right reason. I don't know how productive he would be, but man, think about the marketing possibilities for Jacksonville. They need a Tim Tebow on the team, don't you think?
No, they got Trevor Lawrence for all that.
I think he
gets cut and they put him on the practice squad because now the practice squad is elevated to 13 players where it used to only be 5. So I think they put him on the practice squad. Okay,
well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what good that does for the marketing aspect of it.
Well, here it is.
I mean, he sells jerseys,
QB. He's still on their roster.
But he won't play. If he doesn't play on Sunday, why will they buy his jersey?
Well, even if he makes the team, he ain't going to play.
Well, I'm sorry. You were at practice yesterday and found that out?
I'm going by what I'm hearing.
Okay.
My sources.
All right. Well, I mean, sure. Okay. We'll go with that, I guess. Some of your sources lately, though, have been a little sketchy, but that's fine.
This source is very, very close to the program. Very close.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, it's not the biggest story in the world, that's for sure. And I still got the Jags winning 7 games.
Well, we shall see. All right, JC, enjoy your
trip to Happy Valley
tour.
Going to Happy Valley today, and we'll see what that's all about, and we'll talk Friday.
So make sure you get you a white T-shirt on and go see if they'll let you go sit in the stands and get a little white pom-pom.
Okay, I do want to see what that Beaver Stadium, 100 some odd thousand could be. I hope I can get in. I doubt it, but we'll see. They let folks in Florida Field. We'll see if they
sneak in, JC. Sneak in.
Find
a way. That's JC joining us on the Titan More Hotline. Right. We're going to take our first time out of the program. We come back. We'll be joined by Allan Taylor from The Athletic, talking Gator football. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, non-surgical regeneration, live pain-free. South State Bank, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Silverback Concrete Company. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate. With premium brands like Regal Cinemas, Bass Pro Shops, Nike, Le Macaron French Pastries, International Diamond Center, and opening today, finally today, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Gainesville's hottest new restaurant. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by Allan Taylor from The Athletic. Good morning, Allan. How are you?
Doing well, Shane. Good to be here, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, I want to get your thoughts before we jump into the Gators. You cover the Gators for The Athletic. We've had Andy Staples on. I know he's part of The Athletic, but kind of let our audience know what your role is for The Athletic.
Yeah, pretty much all Gators all the time with an emphasis on football. Grew up in the SEC footprint, covered SEC in Chattanooga and Hunt School, and had been up in West Virginia for about 8 years since I joined the Big 12. Got back down here last season just as the COVID season kicked off, and so now looking forward to a normal football season like the ones we grew up with.
Speaking of normal, what are you hearing out there right now with the the outbreak of the Delta variants with COVID and all that? Do you think opening day we're going to have a packed house in the Swamp?
I feel like the horse is sort of out of the barn on that. I feel like we're going to have to just deal with it. And, I think there'll be signs everywhere that say, if you're not vaccinated, please wear a mask. This thing could always turn crazy, but, I don't think we'll go back to what we had last year of this sort of minimized capacity unless hospitalizations and serious cases really cropped up. I think we're just learning to deal with it because I think it's going to be here for years to come.
And speaking of COVID, you go back to the SEC media days. Greg Sankey basically warned all the teams, if your kids aren't vaccinated, you don't have enough players to play or what have you, you're going to have to forfeit the game. Not like last year where they rescheduled stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know if you know all the details, and I spoke with someone about this a couple of weeks ago. I don't understand why you have to have a certain amount of people on your roster to play in a game. Now, granted, you want to have at least 5 legitimate offensive linemen, but let's say you don't. Why not take a couple backup defensive linemen, train them for a couple of days. They may not be worth a damn, but at least you go try to play the game and win instead of just forfeiting. Will teams be allowed to do that?
Yeah, I think what he was getting at is, last year, if you were under that 51 or 52 or that position group thing, you could essentially opt out that week, and there was a week built in to reschedule. I think now it will be, as you mentioned, on coaches. That opt out or that postponement is not there. So if you've got 47, if you've got 46, if you've only got one quarterback, quite honestly, and maybe you got a Wildcat as your number two, then go play, but you're not going to be able to come back in December and reschedule that game. And quite honestly, I don't think Florida had the prerequisite numbers to go to the Cotton Bowl last year, but Dan said, hey, let's go play 15 kids who haven't played all year and get them some experience, and they did. So I think that option will be there, unlike an NFL-type game where you got to have a hardcore 45-man active roster or whatever the number is.
At Chris Storing Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Storing Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Allan Taylor here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. He covers the SEC and the Florida Gators for The Athletic. You can follow Allan on Twitter at @GAllanTaylor. All right, let me ask you this. I'm sure you've talked yourself to death about the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, and you got a bunch of guys that cover the nation in college football from The Athletic. Just the overall feeling around the country. Do people think this is a good move? Obviously, for the SEC, it is, but it kills the Big 12. Just your thoughts on OU and Texas coming to the league.
Yeah, I understand the argument that TCU is making of going 7-2 against Texas the last 9 years, and here it is. Texas is sort of the big-time free agent. I think it elevates Texas. All those recruits who were going to A&M, Alabama dipped into Texas and got some really good players. LSU always does. I think this gets Texas recruiting back to them getting the guys they want because they never had that SEC brand. And Oklahoma has done well anyway. As far as the SEC shakeout, I think it really hurts recruiting for LSU, A&M, and really Arkansas. Arkansas got a lot of those strong three-star kids out of Texas and Oklahoma, and I think, those might dry up once the Sooners and Texas are here. And just what it does to scheduling, who knows? As long as the Gators get to keep playing Georgia, Tennessee, and I think the LSU series is a good one. I know there's some discrepancy on both sides about whether that game needs to be played, but I think it's one of the SEC's marquee games. So I would hope that at least those three games stay intact.
And they've talked about doing away with the divisions, about these different pods. When it's all said and done, how do you think it shakes out?
Yeah, whether it's a pod or whether you just have three permanent opponents, I think that's the way to go. The pod system sounds good, except that all the teams in that pod would have to play each other. Well, that takes out having your best three opponents, So I think it'll go to three permanent and then 6 rotating, so you have a 9-game schedule. They could even go with a 10-game SEC schedule as long as the other 2 games were Group of 5 or FCS type things. I don't think you're going to play a 10-game SEC schedule and still have Auburn going to play Penn State or Alabama and Miami, because at that point you're asking for a bunch of SEC teams to be 8-3 or 9-2 with just a ridiculous strength of schedule.
So you do think they will continue to have permanent teams that you play? Because I personally now, with 16 teams, and it could be more, we don't know. I think they need to just do away with the divisions, pods, whatever, and kind of go to how the NFL makes the schedules. I don't know exactly how they names out of a hat or what you're doing, but that way fans and players get to play during their career, and we'll get to see multiple teams come into the swamp, not the same teams every year. Do you think that's a possibility at all?
Yeah, and if you lose those games, well, you know how it is. It's tradition, right? And it's not just tradition for tradition's sake. It's because your parents and my parents and our granddads and generations of alumni grew up enjoy in those certain games. You've got to protect those games. I'm glad they protected Alabama, Tennessee at the last round of things. So yeah, those are games you've got to protect. And again, it's you don't want to go 8, 9, 10 years between Georgia going to A&M or Florida going out to Austin. So I think they'll do that.
Allan, let's switch gears. Let's go talk about the Gators a little bit. I don't know if you've been following practice on a daily basis. You probably have. Any news or anything jump out to you since they started practice on Friday?
Well, they're still in shorts, so I think
everybody looks good in shorts.
Exactly. I think the first day they go in pads, and you at least get an idea of who is running with the ones. There really aren't a ton of position battles, at least not like a wide open type of training camp. But once they get in pads and you start seeing at least who the coaches are working with, you sort of get an idea of whether this guy is going to get some run or whether he's, so far down the depth chart that you don't need to worry about him. So that's what I'm looking forward to in the next few days. But I mean, what they do with strength and conditioning these days, every time you see a kid come off a 5 or 6 month off season, it's just amazing the differences they make. If you look at Mahmoud Diabate, I mean, heavens, 10 pounds, but it's all muscle, and the guy just looks different. And there's 20 guys up and down the roster that have made those kind of jumps in the offseason. And so Nick Savage is doing something well.
Yeah, it is amazing when kids walk on campus and, they're fed correctly, they train correctly. It's amazing what the human body can turn into. Defensively, obviously the Gators struggled a little bit last year. I'm on record saying it was due to the defensive line. I said that before the season even started. Have you had any conversations at all with the two transfers, the kid from Penn State and Auburn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talked to both of them at length in the spring, and the thing I like about them is neither one has had a great career, but they've both been solid starters at Power 5 universities. The kid Antonio Shelton / Valentino from Penn State, started for 2 years and really held the point of attack for Penn State. Newkirk is more of a dynamic defensive lineman, and he blows out his Achilles opposite ones doing the same pass rushing drill in spring back-to-back years, but came back last year and was actually able to start 10 games coming off one of those tears. So he swears both Achilles are stronger now than they were before, and he looks good. And I think you can see those guys in some sort of tandem, either playing a defensive tackle nose thing or, you get into a pass rushing situation and maybe Newkirk with a 3 down front can do some pass rushing from the nose. And what that does is that means you don't have to rely on Gervon Dexter to go play 70 snaps this year, which he can't do. But you put that big guy at 40 or 45 snaps a game, and I like what you're going to do with him. So they needed to plug those gaps.
We got a couple of Facebook Live questions here brought to you by Metal Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. John asks, Allan, what kind of role does Anthony Richardson have this year since he's very similar to Emory Jones?
Yeah, it's a good question because it won't be as distinct a difference as going Kyle Trask to Emory Jones, where it was probably 85% run probability, right? I think it's just going to be offensive continuity. I think Anthony's going to run the same type of formations and has some of the same strength that Emory does. The difference is Emory runs away from guys. Anthony tends to run over people because he's just a beast, a little bigger guy. So I don't think you'll see that drastic change, except for obviously 3 years in the system for Emory. There are going to be certain things he's a little bit better at processing. And so, maybe there's not that complete playbook open for Anthony, even though he's got just a pretty strong skill set.
We're speaking with Allan Taylor here from The Athletic on the Titan MR Hotline. You can follow Allan on Twitter at @GAllanTaylor. Dan asked on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metal Law, any chance the starting defensive tackle that just left Auburn this week comes to Florida as well?
I'm digging on that to see. I'm under the impression that with Elijah Blades coming in at corner, that they might have finally reached that limit on number of guys they can take. They're taking like 27 or 28, and you can push 2 or 3 back to last year and forward the rest of this year. So I think they're getting close to the max. But if he doesn't have character issues, and if he can play, then there are going to be teams lining up for.
Speaking of transfers, when is Elijah Blades? Is he eligible to play right away? When is he going to? I don't know if he's been to practice yet. When is he suiting up as a Gator?
He told me his grades were due to be posted on the 12th. And so he hopes to be there by the 13th. He's already relocated to Miami. He's hanging out with some guys. He went to junior college down there, so that really at a moment's notice he can drive up and get going. And you wonder about a guy coming in 3 weeks before the regular season, but he's been training. He's a cornerback. That's sort of a plug and play position if one exists, right? Obviously, there's some coverage communication stuff he's going to have to work on, but he's not going to have to learn a whole defense or learn a whole offense. So that's a guy who's 6'1", 6'2", had some pretty good tape against Alabama 2 years ago out in College Station. I think he's a guy that can hop in and within a week or two be able to compete. You saw NFL guys coming to a team off the free agent waiver wire, and they're suiting up 3 days later and playing. So it's doable.
Yeah, and he's an older guy, as you mentioned. Speaking of transfers, that's kind of the way of the world. And Dan and his staff have done a tremendous job jumping into the transfer portal and picking up some really pieces that have helped out the Gators the last couple of years. Not trying to put you on the spot right now, Allan, but how many damn transfers do we have on our roster right now? It seems like a lot.
I looked at a possible 2 deep the other day, and I think I came up with 8 or 9 who could be either starting or playing heavy reps, right? And here's my thinking on it. If you're sort of stop-gapping it and band-aiding it every year with 1 year guys, I think it's a recipe for disaster. If you're pulling in the DeMarcus Bowmans of the world who have 4 years of eligibility left, or Brenton Cox who had 3 or 4 years of eligibility, if you're getting those multiple year guys, it's sustainable as long as you're not taking more than 7 or 8 a year. And really, the last few years they had been taking some of those long-term guys. Now you get into Shelton and Newkirk and Elijah Blades this year, and you do definitely have some 1 year guys. But if you can find those guys with 2 or 3 years yet who have been broken in on a college campus and understand the difference in how a coach talks to you in recruiting versus how he's going to talk to you in training camp, then I think you get some guys who are ready to play and contribute. So it's a way you've got to augment. Alabama beat Florida for a really good 1 year, one and done guy, Henry To'oTo'o at linebacker. Both of those schools were really on him, and they know he's probably only here for a year before he goes to NFL. So it's not just something you have to do out of necessity at Florida.
Yeah. Allan, before we let you go, when you look at the SEC right now and the Florida Gators, obviously pretty much all the media picked Georgia to win the East. I think Georgia right now probably is the better team until we see how we play, and obviously we beat them last year. On the West, I think Alabama is going to be pretty good, but I think this is A&M's year. Who do you think plays in Atlanta?
I'm giving Alabama the benefit of the doubt, but it sort of reminds me of that 2010 team that Saban had where they lost 2 or 3, had a really stocked roster, and they've got so many guys that are playing their first year of heavy starting. So I think Bama definitely loses a regular season game. That may be at the Swamp. I mean, that's going to be Bryce Young's first road start and first SEC start, and that place is going to be rocking. I mean, there's no better time for Florida to get them. And then as you mentioned, A&M, Bama's got to go out there. And by that point, A&M's going to be 5-0 because they really want to play to anybody. I think a road game at Colorado might be their toughest game coming in. So that place is going to be loud, as we saw last year. So I think you're right. They definitely lose a game. And, if A&M can find a quarterback and if their backup offensive lineman from last year produce, they've got a lot of guys. Jimbo has really been recruiting out there, and they're on par with Alabama. Even more so now than they were like back when Johnny Manziel was there.
Yeah. So you think Alabama, Georgia is who you predict to go to Atlanta?
Yeah. I mean, anything else right now for me would be like just to be contrarian or try to have a forced pick. I think Georgia's set up to win the whole thing. and that could lead to Alabama and Georgia both being in the playoff. If Georgia gets them in Atlanta, that's a possibility as well. I think Kirby is a great recruiter, and I think he's coming along as a coach and learning from mistakes they've made in the past. And that game last year is probably tighter if JT Daniels was able to play against Florida. He wasn't at the time, so they missed some guys open deep. But I think Georgia has recruited on par with Alabama, and so they can match up with them.
Well, good stuff as always, my man. We appreciate you taking the time. Let everybody know how they can check out all your work at The Athletic.
Yeah, just go to theathletic.com. I think we got a special going right now. We tend to have those going every other week, I think. So lots of good stuff. NFL, soccer from Europe, if you're into that. We had a Pittsburgh Steelers assistant say he was getting a subscription now because we finally started covering the Euro League a couple years ago.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
Well, that's great. Allan, we appreciate you taking the time to join the program today. Be safe, and we'll talk to you soon during the season, my man.
Hey, anytime, Shane. Good to talk to you, man.
That's Allan Taylor from The Athletic. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Going to take our final time out of the program, come back, wrap up this Wednesday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, non-surgical regeneration, live pain-free. South State Bank, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Carter Apparel, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Center State Bank is now South State Bank, but we still put business first. We understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. South State still has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking forward, member FDIC. I want to get to this day brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. On this day in 1919, the Green Bay Packers Football Club was founded by George Calhoun and Curly Lambeau. They were named after sponsored Indian Packing Company that became the Green Bay Packers. That's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Give them a call at 352-376-2366. I want to thank JC for joining us on the Titan MR Hotline, and Allan Taylor from The Athletic as well. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, folks. We'll have Brent Beard talking college football, get some news and notes around all the camps that have opened in the SEC. We're also going to have former defensive lineman from the national championship team under Urban Meyer, Stephen Harris, join the program as well. Make sure you follow us and like us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the different digital platforms out there. Today's show is a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Be safe, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.